Hi all, welcome to Boss Babes Season 2, Episode 1. I'm super excited for the season and I'm super excited to be here with Billi Free and chat with her a little bit about, her experience as an artist, musician, leader, and entrepreneur. So thank you so much for being here today, Billi. So I met Billi maybe 15 years ago in Chicago, is that right? Yeah, I think so. And at the time, we were both part of a nonprofit collective called Echoes of Chicago. Super cool experience there as well. And I've always been in awe of your voice, your musicianship, and artistry, and I'm super excited that I get to share that with folks today. So just, I'm going to talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll kind of just like jump right in. Billi is a Pacific-born, Midwest-raised, Southwest-based vocalist, MC, songwriter, DJ, and beat producer. So a lot of things. She began her career in Chicago providing vocals for hip-hop and world music outfits, but has spent the last decade in the desert, fusing elements of both city and border into her sound. Which I have had the pleasure of hearing a little bit online and through videos, etc. Super love all the stuff you do. Her music is heavily influenced by hip hop, electronic, and soul music, and she's performed regionally, nationally, and internationally since 2015. So that's a little bit about kind of where she's come from, and I'll include a short timeline, so please do correct me if I get anything wrong, Billi. So in 2018, she released both a hip hop electronic, both two records, right? So you released hip hop electronic with Chicago producer Uncle L, right? And an ambient beat production EP with Chicago label Etc. Records. And then in 2019, you released a full-length album, Iluma. Did I get that correctly? Did I say that right? Or is it Iluma?
It's Iluma.
Iluma. Okay, cool. I should have asked you that beforehand, but I didn't. With production from Tensai on German label Tokyo Dawn Records. She was also a resident DJ for the El Paso Museum of Art, which is pretty awesome. Served as a hip-hop cultural ambassador to Mongolia for the Next Level Hip Hop Arts Education Program. And you did tell me a little bit about your trip to Mongolia, so maybe we'll have a little time to chat about that. She released in 2020, she released her jazz, hip hop, and rock album Friday Night with El Paso, Texas band Ribo Ruckus, ABF, and then also released a single entitled Forecast with Denver producer DJ AL. Did I pronounce that right? DJ AL, right? And she's currently working on. What'd you say?
I said, you got it.
I got it. I really. And then she's currently working on several projects for release in the near future. So she's doing a lot of work, quite a bit of work, and I'm super looking forward to seeing where it takes you, and what will come of it all. So very excited for that. So again, thank you for being here, Billi. I'm so excited to give you the platform. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we move on?
Not really, but thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great to reconnect after all of these years for this particular purpose. I'm honored to be a Boss Babe along with the lineage of Boss Babes before me in season 1. And just very happy to sit and speak with people and speak with you about what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm honored to have you here. So we'll just kind of dive right in and talk a bit about you as a creator, as a collaborator, and as a service provider as it relates to music and artistry. Does that work?
Totally.
Okay, sweet. So can you kind of just talk a little bit about what it is that you do and how your experience have shaped what you're doing now?
I'm just heavily involved with music, and that was one of my first loves. And so from being sort of an independent musician, I've had to take on other roles, right? Accountant, graphic designer, I did video editing, all of these other things. So that is some of what I do, and I guess we'll dive deeper into that later. My experiences, I grew up in the Midwest, And my mother's family loved music. They love listening to music. They used to have parties almost every weekend, bring their friends over and play cards, and the record player will always be going. And, you know, myself and my cousins, we would, you know, run around and dance and, you know, play like we're the group singing or whatever.
Yeah.
So those are some of my earliest memories. I've also been heavily involved in choir, choral music from middle school all the way up through high school, musical theater. I did a stint in an orchestral band for a little bit. I played the bass clarinet. So those, and then, you know, coming to Chicago, I came to Chicago to get a liberal arts degree, but prior to graduating high school, I discovered hip hop, and, you know, it just took me to different places. I was in a small town in Ohio, and, you know, in my imagination, it took me to several different places and, you know, connected me with a legacy outside of my family of people who love music and have used it to heal themselves and free themselves in different ways and different aspects. So when I got to Chicago, I was like on the hunt for hip hop, like wherever I could find it. And I found it. And that's, you know, part of how we got to know each other too, through music and arts and culture and all of these things. So those are just a few experiences that still inform my songwriting today and even how I live my life.
Yeah. And I love kind of just like hearing some of those influences, you know, throughout your videos and as you're developing and growing, but clearly there's like this element that I feel as well. And I kind of like it brings some nostalgia back a little bit, you know, a little Chicago or a little just kind of like what I remember. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you know, just kind of to segue into the next question, you know, we were having this conversation when we were talking the other day, and just kind of thinking about all the other roles that you have to take on, you know, as an entrepreneur when you're kind of you know, a working musician. So, you know, my question to you is sort of like, what does a working musician look like on a day-to-day? You know, I know there's a lot more than meets the eye.
Definitely. It's not just getting on stage in some pretty garb and singing and then, you know, having your lovely fans fawn over you for the next, you know, half an hour or however long. I come from a working class family, so I very much take that energy and that spirit into my entrepreneurship and my work as a musician. So I kind of treat it like a 9-to-5, although the schedule is sort of flexible. So I rehearse every day, you know, just to keep my voice healthy. I exercise every day, on the emails constantly. If I have a new release, there's a lot of planning around that because, you know, I'm working with different entities. You know, I'm working with a distributor, or I'm working with my collaborator, or I'm working with the artist for album artwork. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and, you know, for me right now, as it currently stands, I have like 3 big projects, and they all have moving pieces. So some are at a more beginning stage, some have matured, and they need a different set of attention, a different set of skills. So as I said before, the music has brought me into, you know, working with video, audio engineering, you know, just basic marketing too. I mean, looking at, you know, the social media and my timeline, and that it is a great marketing tool and a big marketing tool, and how to grab people's attention without spamming them. So all of these things, you know, kind of go into the process of being a working musician and being a person who uses art as a livelihood.
Yeah.
In addition to a creative outlet.
Totally. Yeah. I think that balance, right, between like marketing, like doing something that's of service and bringing something to people, and at the same time like marketing but not making it kind of like spammy or whatever. That's definitely like a balance, you know, a delicate balance. So I know we were also chatting a little bit about sort of like solo versus working in collaboration with folks, and you kind of shed some light on things I wasn't as aware of, just in terms of, you know, what it looks like working solo versus collaborating. So would you mind kind of just like sharing a little bit about that piece?
Sure. I don't know if it's going to be the same answer I gave you before, but
That's all right.
because there's different pieces on it, and every day the perspective opens if you're working solo or working collaboratively. So my situation is, I feel that is different. Although the way that musicians work now is more remote. But I'm kind of like remote, right? So whereas if I were still in Chicago and I met a producer or an instrumentalist, we would go to a studio and, jam and lay down some tracks or something like that. I am in the middle of New Mexico. The biggest city is 2 hours away. So I'm like remote. So even when I'm collaborating, it's sort of like a solo project, but inside of a collaboration. So that is kind of the verses. It's kind of the same, but for collaborations, you have that extra piece. And I really love collaborations because I am so remote by choice. But I love to work on a goal, work towards a mission, or work on a mission towards a goal with someone else to build a piece of art, and further create human community and human connection. And I am sort of a solitary creature. So like I said, I'm out here by choice. I love my solitude, but I also recognize the need to connect and to be a part of a larger community. And so collaborations allow me to do that, allow me to be in service in that way.
Has that changed for you at all, while, the pandemic and COVID has been going on, like how you collaborate? Sort of curious about what that looks like.
Yo, it's like crazy because it's like the opposite. Like I'm busy doing, like, people are hitting me up for features, people are hitting me up for collaborations, and I'm cool with it, like, and I'm managing it, it's fine, but I wasn't really expecting that. But as the winter months come in, I feel like I want to put myself on like self-hibernation mode. Like I definitely appreciate the opportunities that are coming, but I just feel like now it's time to like, all right, like let's close the bloom up for a little while, and then in the spring, like we can come back out, and it kind of like falls in tune with like everything that's happening now in the larger society around, like public health and politics and all of these sorts of things. Like I kind of just,
so like
curl up.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go for it.
No, I just wanna curl up and then come back out in the spring, figuratively, not literally. I'm not blind to the things that's happening. I'm not without feeling for the things that's happening too. But I also sort of my biggest thing is starting with self, and letting that radiate out into the folks that are in your immediate vicinity, and perhaps that will radiate out more as well.
So sort of like filling your cup.
Running away. I'm not running away. I'm just like self-preserving, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I think personally, I think it's so important to do that and sort of like fill your cup back up. And I think for me at least, being creative, kind of just like filling back up is super important to the creative process on a personal level, and I know that people experience that differently. So I totally, that makes sense to me in terms of like what I experience personally. But and just like having that recognition, I think is just really like important for any artist or musician, right? Like kind of like how they function best creatively, and what they need to do to take care of themselves. But yeah, it's so interesting because
it's revolutionary. And I want to do more of it, as I said, I come from a working class family, so it's kind of hard to put the brakes on that, and I've been trying to incorporate rest into my day-to-day, because I recognize as I get older how important it is. And I should have been doing it like 10 years ago. A lot of catching up to do.
Oh, I feel that, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so like, you know, I've been sort of thinking just about like artists and just musicians, and also just how COVID has affected their livelihood in terms of just like performing. And, you know, obviously I think people are still collaborating, and folks have found other ways, right? Like concerts through Zoom, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it appears from the external perspective that things are still thriving despite kind of like what's happening in regards to COVID. Would you kind of like agree with that experience, or, you know, what's your sort of, and maybe you've answered that, maybe you've already answered that, but sort of like just in terms of like performing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, performing was my big bread and butter, and it allowed me to network more. And now it allowed more tools, right? So we have social media and Zoom and Twitch and all of these things, but it allowed for me a deeper connection with the communities around me, right? So like Tucson, Albuquerque, El Paso, you know, and the folks there and the artists there. But we don't have that now. And I feel like there's always going to be a push, right? There's going to be people that are going to like push the envelope and like have those small concerts and all of that. And then, you know, 10 years from now, when maybe everything's okay, they'll be like, I was on the front lines, and I, you know, I having shows when they weren't allowed to have shows and all of this stuff. And like, I'm like, okay, that's cool, you do you, but like, I'm not necessarily like, you know, that's not my position, right? That's not how, I can wait. It's okay. And, you know, life has brought me to the point where I don't have to completely depend on, you know, performing all of the time. So, but again, I'm not, I don't turn a blind eye to the folks that really did, you know, that was their whole, their whole thing. And now, you know, it's perhaps to struggle, or maybe they're taking aid from places where they don't want to take aid, or, you know, they feel a certain type of way about it. But, you know, I just feel like I'm an observer right now. You know, I'm just observing what folks are doing and seeing how the pieces fall. And then when I see my opening, because I'm looking, then I'm going to jump into it. But for now, I'm just waiting to see what the deal is.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, like, I mean, I'm sort of going to ask this later, but I kind of want to ask it now. So just in terms of just like what the community can do to support artists right now and musicians, do you have any sort of input around that?
Well, you know, I have this whole like philosophical answer for that. And really, but you know, I also, like, on a literal level, I also have information too. But I really feel like people can help me by helping themselves, right? Because I can only help people if I am helping myself, right? So that was like my big like send off for the BossBabes, but we're gonna hit it early. But you can, I mean, just run up the artist Spotify, run up their Bandcamp, you know, keep speaking. You know, what I've noticed about this time too is that folks are connecting, you know, like how you reached out to me, like folks are connecting all over the place, and conversations are being had. So, you know, bring up an artist you really respect, bring their name up in a conversation, you know, send that Instagram profile to, you know, maybe you had a conversation about a particular type of music or a particular type of artist, send that information, you know. With the internet, there really is no excuse, you know, anymore not to share information. So
100%.
Keep our names in your mouth, you know, and keep our music in your ears, and keep our art in your eyes and your heart. And I mean, that's my answer.
Yeah, that's I like that. Yeah, that's very true. It's beautiful. I mean, and I think it's true. I mean, it's definitely like not to forget, kind of, because I mean, you know, having artists and musicians, I mean, there's so much that they bring, right, to our communities, and it's such an important piece of our life. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good reminder keep doing that and keep supporting folks and not kind of like, you know, keeping it relevant in that sense, right? So yeah, and you know, I'll post a little bit about that at the end when you know, I post this. But so we're gonna kind of jump into like another sort of like idea. Is there anything else that you sort of wanted to say about anything we chatted about, or?
No, I mean, I'm a pretty simple person, so it's pretty much going to come back to the same few things.
Yeah, good.
You know, that's cool because, you know, I'll listen to like my favorite lecture every year over and over again, just for them to confirm to me, you know, that life is simple.
Yeah. I like that though. It's true. I mean, it is true. So, you know, in terms of just simplicity or whatever, you know, just kind of thinking along those lines of like, what is the creative process like for you? You know, how do you come up with the songs, etc., that you produce, and how do you work through the process from start to finish? Kind of what inspires you, and then just like the actual, you know, process itself.
Yeah. For beat making, what inspires me is the legacy of producers before me. I'm just going to throw out some names of some influences. Madlib, Pray 273, Herbie Hancock, Philip Glass. Like, these are folks, like, again, I can listen to them over and over and over and over and over again and always hear something new and never get tired of hearing it. And so for beat making, that is really where my inspiration comes from. And for me, it's not, you know, copying them bit by bit, but sort of like synergizing the feeling that they give me and then putting it into this machine. And I am a baby as far as beat making is concerned, but I really enjoy it. And I enjoy the technical process. And so for that process, it's like, you know, you got your DAW, your digital audio workstation, or your computer program, and you just start playing around with sounds, really. Having a good grasp on, you know, how beats fall and the counts, you know, that's super important. So I usually just start with drums, and then I go from there, and I'll figure out melodies and so on and so forth. And I heard a beat maker say, she said, you're never really done with the beat, and I can definitely feel that. And starting out, it was very frustrating because you want to be finished, you want to have something complete, but you know, you can come back to a beat you thought was finished 3 years ago and still add something to it. So that's one process. Now, singing and songwriting, like generally with that, music is presented to me first, whether it be like from a live band or a beat maker, and that's really the base for my songwriting. And I like that approach because it's infinite. Like, I can listen to all sorts of different types of music and come up with something different for each one, or even come up with the same message, but it's just said differently because the kick hits harder or the flute solo is like ridiculous, you know? So I really find a lot of expansiveness and openness in singing and songwriting. And so that sort of led me on to rap, which I just recently started doing, like in the last five or 6 years. And it's allowed me another expression. And so there's calculations that happen because you are essentially, when you're rapping, you're essentially a percussion instrument. And so you're trying to find a way to fall on a beat without overshadowing what's already there and adding to what's already there, but also getting your point across. So it's like multiple levels of the brain and the spirit working together. And then DJing, I just came upon that. That's been like 2 years. I'm also a baby in that, but it's just been so fun to rediscover music that I grew up on, and also rediscover genres that I never even thought that I would like, you know, because I'm trying to find music for this particular crowd, or perhaps something that they would like. And so again, we're always coming back to service, right? Trying to be of service to other people kind of brings you around to you know, what you need to do and how you need to do it, and maybe you'll find some hidden jewels in there you didn't think you'd find.
Yeah. I really do, like, I love seeing all the different things that you've sort of been doing, like, more recently, right? Like, I like seeing all those additions. Very cool. But yeah, it's just so interesting, like, how people, you know, kind of come up with, or, you know, what the creative process is. It's so different for everyone. You know, so like one of the things that I loved about our discussion the other day is the way that you've sort of like designed your life to make it work for you, rather than trying to mold yourself or fit like some sort of expectation of you. And so, you know, it sort of goes in with like sort of like not exactly the creative process, but just in terms of like the process that you went to get to the place where you could sort of like live the type of life you wanted to live. Because I know you've like done various things, and then you're finally like, well, I want to be a working musician. Like, this is what I want to be doing, and sort of how you created that for yourself.
Woo!
That's
well,
a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's several different pieces. One of them was the intention to have peace in my life.
Yeah.
And at the time when I created that intention, I thought that peace looked like this. You know, peace looked like something, not what I'm living now, but it looked like something else. You know, it looked like, I don't know, you know, $5,000 in the bank account and a new car, and, you know, all of these things, right? But what I've discovered is that life gives you what you want. It's just, you didn't know you wanted it, right? I think when the intention's pure, right? Like, people think that peace looks like a certain thing, but peace might be taking your ass out to the middle of the desert and just sitting for a year, you know, which is basically what I did. I had to literally pull myself out of my situation, which, you know, for all intents and purposes was not bad, right? But I was not living in my purpose. So I needed to, some people, they need to just snatch themselves out of that, and then be okay with solitude, be okay with being alone. Really digging deep, right? And again, for me personally, being by myself and confronting my baggage and my demons still, right? That's brought me peace, right? Because I can sit with myself, and I can stand to be around myself, and I'm not using some other thing or some other person to as a buffer and a barrier against really knowing myself, right? And so that deepens my relationships with those around me and those that I connect with. And I really do feel like it translates in the music. And so, again, wherever I can be of service, I feel like that's an important lesson that I am always reminded of, and that I feel like I've learned. Why not give that away to people, you know, and perhaps that it can help them.
Yeah, I do think
so that's a lot of what happened for me to get where I am now.
Yeah, I mean, I think just hearing kind of, you know, I think hearing you speak, and just knowing that it's such an important thing to put out there for people in general to see, you know, to just kind of have other folks who are doing that and just living life in the way that feels right for them, and not sort of fitting into whatever mold. And I think, you know, interestingly, I think the pandemic has brought that about for a lot of people, where they're like, finally like, like, I can create life in the way that feels, you know, sort of not genuine, but just like connected for me, and like right for me, and like, this is how I want to do it. You know, and you know, you've been doing it for a while now, but I think more and more folks are finally coming into themselves and being like, okay, like, you know, and sort of prioritizing what's important for them. So I love to see that, like, you've been doing that for a while now, and just definitely inspiring. You know, we also spoke a little bit about what feels important to you as a musician and what inspires you, what you do hope to accomplish. And, you know, you've spoken a little bit about that already throughout, but, you know, if you want to speak a bit more about it or say anything just specific, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I'm super big on connection. And again, we've spoken about, you know, why that is. It's, you know, it's primarily a proximity issue, but connection, you know, people right now during these times, I think that they are, somebody said that they're touch starved. I heard that, right? And so a lot of the senses are starved, right? And so our sense of connection, like on a level above physical, you know, I think the highways are open for that, right? And even before all of this, and I believe after all of this, you know, maintaining and strengthening that connection is important. And I hope more people do it. I feel like as humans, we are supposed to create art in whatever form that takes. You know, I think living life is an art. So we are all artists and we all can connect on that point. And you know, I like to embody that, you know, and I like to see it in other people.
Very true. Yeah, I definitely agree with you around that. Like, life is definitely an art and we all create in one way or another and whatever that means to us. So yeah, thank you for that perspective. And so, like, the other thing that I found interesting when we were chatting the other day is just a bit about kind of you being an outlier in terms of the industry. And I really enjoyed your perspective around that. You know, and so kind of just wondering if you would be willing to share a bit about your relationship with the music industry and, you know, how that kind of relates to you as a musician and how you perceive that. And what's most important to you in that regard.
I really, especially as I grow more in music, I am enjoying my positioning as an outlier to the music industry. I've had a little taste of, you know, being inside of that machine, and I don't really particularly care for it, right? But I also recognize that, you know, outside of the business, there are a lot of folks who just love music and love to share it. And I think that there is a rising up of folks who are sort of on the same like wavelength, and I appreciate that. And perhaps it'll change the music industry. Perhaps it will implode the music industry. It's okay, because I'll still be making art, you know, and I'm not so invested in it. Right? And I'm a simple person. I don't need a large machine. I like doing it myself. I don't really like outsourcing a lot of stuff when I could do it myself, because it's a learning opportunity for me. Yeah, my independence, I feel like my growing independence and my maturing independence is really what's important to me as far as like working on music and being quote unquote, you know, orbiting the music industry. I keep an eye to see what's going on, but for the most part, I'm not interested. There's another way, you know, and I've tapped into that. And, you know, again, the internet is great for that, because, man, I just went on Bandcamp and spent like quite a bit of money because I'm like discovering all of this like dope music, you know what I mean? And, you know, these may be future collaborators or just people that I admire, and I can see them grow in the music. So, yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. I'm good without it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what I love kind of just about sort of just chatting with you the other day and hearing about that experience where, you know, you could still be, you know, you could be a working musician, you could do what you love, you can be creative, you can affect people, you can collaborate, you can do all these things without being a part of an industry that doesn't feed you or fill you, you know, and so having that be a choice. So like if you wanted to do that, that's great too, but not having it be the only option you have. And so that's kind of, you know, along the lines of just sort of like creating your reality as you want it to be, and kind of manifesting your reality as you see fit and as you want it to be. So I love hearing that that piece about kind of like, you know, making music and like consciously choosing to be an outlier. And if that changes, but like at least you get to make that choice for yourself, you know. And so I really like love hearing that. So can you kind of sort of describe how you use art and music as a service-based medium? I know we talked a bit about you know, your trip to Mongolia, and then you know, being the resident DJ for the El Paso Museum of Art, sort of like how you see yourself in connection to service and music. And I know we touched on that a little bit, but I guess like some of these specific things as well.
So I grew up, well, I didn't grow up, but while I was in college in Chicago at the university, I did a lot of like service-based learning and community advocacy. Hold on real quick. Hold on, please. All right, we don't have to edit that out.
Oh yeah, no, that's all right. That's your beautiful babies, huh? That's your two. Yeah. That is all good.
They're talking about something and clanging the dishes.
Oh yeah, good. you got them working now. That's a beautiful thing.
Okay. Service and music as a service-based medium.
Yeah,
okay,
totally.
Here we go. All right. So while I was in school in Chicago, I did a lot of community advocacy and service-based learning work in the university, and that way also connected me with hip hop, because I was able to connect with a lot of organizations that were using hip hop as a means of service. And so that doing you know, events with them, events with Echoes of Chicago, so on and so forth, really drove that point home, right? That we are a community. Like, we're different communities. One person can be a part of several communities, and we can all build and we can all cipher. And I think that we can be better off for it. And so that has that was more action-based, right? And so now my service is still action-based, but it's sonically, right? It's sonically through music. And so again, as I said before, I take all of the feels and energy and vibes of the music that I like to listen to, of the music that inspires me. I synergize it into myself, and then I present it to the people, you know, as a gift, you know, as service. And I feel like it's good enough for me right now. You know, I have large plans in the future. What I would like to do is start like a mobile hip hop workshop, and based on templates that I've seen done both in Chicago and around most recently in Mongolia, where you just provide the space for folks to come and practice one of the hip hop arts, either together or separately. We've got workshops. You know, touring musicians come through cities all the time. You know, to be able to employ them to give a workshop about how to start a tour. You know what I mean? About you know, how to produce your own music, or you know, the possibilities are endless on what, you know, working musicians and touring musicians can teach. So these are plans for the future in regards to service, but right now I'm pretty stable in the service that I give out to folks. And even just, you know, just going to the store and just being decent to people, you know, and understanding that, you know, they might have had a hard day, so maybe not give them as much crap as you think that they deserve, you know. And so it's the little things, right? It's the life art piece, and I think the life art piece includes service. So these are some of the things I try to practice around music and service.
I love that, the life art piece. It's a really important thing to remember, that I think is so often and so easily forgotten, kind of like in the hubbub of everything, you know. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's sort of like how you presented that when you did your workshops in Mongolia, and what you've sort of like providing space essentially for people. But yeah, so I want to respect your time, and I know that you got little ones and you got stuff going on, and you're doing some things. So is there anything else that you kind of like want to add, or that I didn't really ask or, touch on, that you would like to sort of share before we wrap up and close out?
Well, I first want to thank you and thank BossBabes for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to reiterate, kind of the points that we touched on, which are kind of like touchstones of my life, right? It's like knowing yourself, right? Incorporating more rest and relaxation into your daily life and into your discipline and whatever career that you, whatever career path or trajectory that you're on. Creating connection with people through your art form or just from your, whatever music, visual, or life art. I think that's pretty much it. You just also rewind and watch us again, watch this wonderful conversation again. But I just want to thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy.
I'm so honored that you, made the time and the space. I know you have a lot going on. And so folks, I'll attach, Billi's website, videos, her music, etc. When I post the video. And this is also on YouTube. I do post it to social media and YouTube. So just look out for BossBabes. So thank you once again, Billi. I so much appreciate your time and your energy, and look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Hey, thank you. Likewise.
Absolutely.
Peace.